Welcome back to Star or Shovelware, my name's Luke, and today I'm going to be sharing my first look and gameplay impressions of They Always Run on the Nintendo Switch. And this one is an action platformer in which you play as a three-armed mutant bounty hunter tasked with tracking down and capturing the most badass bounties in the galaxy. The game looks sweet as a nut both visually and in terms of its action, but I advise holding off on a purchase until I've said my piece. So don't forget to like and subscribe if you're an absolute star, and let's get started. So I'll begin by saying that I was supposed to be doing a full review of They Always Run, however there's currently a game breaking bug affecting it, whereby in the game's third level, this blue dude is supposed to do a wall jump, but instead does a fancy looking flip and then just gets stuck in the ground. This means that you can't pop him into the stasis chamber to actually complete the level, and so this is as far as I got. Now the developers are currently looking into this issue and I'll leave a pinned comment down below when it's been fixed, but I've played about an hour and a half's worth of the game, which I think is enough to give you a bit of an idea of what to expect. Now so far as the storyline goes in the game, I've not experienced a lot of it, but so far it seems pretty cool, and in the short time that I've spent playing, I've travelled to multiple planets in search of bounties and information. On the first planet I encountered a fellow three-armed bounty hunter who'd been murdered and then hung out to dry, and Aiden, the guy that you play as, had a flashback of the hunter being shot. I've also encountered another bounty hunter who appeared to have some sweet ass moves and is a bit of a gobshite, but I've yet to discover who they actually are or what their game is. The story itself appears to be told predominantly through text-based dialogue and the flashbacks which occur on multiple occasions, and thus far it's leading me to believe that Aiden is searching for lost memories or something in his past, but I have to admit it's all pretty intriguing. Now gameplay wise, the game opens with a tutorial in which you find yourself mid-mission in a bar, swigging on a cold one and asking questions as to the whereabouts of your latest bounty. Shit quickly kicks off though, and then you're taken through the combat mechanics, which overall are pretty solid but do take a little getting used to. As with most action platformers, you have your basic attack combo as well as a dodge roll and counter attack, but you can also direct punches from your third arm by holding down R and moving the right thumbstick. Having three arms though is a real benefit when things get hairy, as you can use it to perform some cheeky sucker punches and break enemy blocks. Though for powerful haymakers which send enemies flying, you do need to collect charges by performing counter attacks. What I will say about the combat though is that while it's pretty enjoyable and you feel like a right badass taking down enemies like a boss, like the rest of the game it does feel a little clunky. Trying to direct your attacks feels like a struggle at times, as it seems they're wanting to lock onto enemies for you, and the game is also pretty brutal when it comes to taking hits, as your character is a bit of a glass cannon, and taking 2 or 3 hits will put you on your ass and send you back to your last checkpoint. It's really not all bad though, as checkpoints appear to be quite frequent, and you're able to increase your max health to soak up more hits, and you can also find health capsules with which to restore it. Now when it comes to the platforming, again this is a bit of a mixed bag. There are times where it feels fantastically fluid as you hop from platform to platform, slide your way through crawl spaces and mantle over obstructions, and the game's name comes into play in the awesome chase sequences where you're hot on the heels of your mark and have to use zip lines and grapple hooks to navigate the terrain and keep up with them while they duck the way through shortcuts. At other times though, platforming can be frustrating and again a little clunky, and your character has a habit of sticking to ledges like shit to a blanket or not performing jumps when you want them to, but overall I'd say platforming is decent and for the most part pretty enjoyable. Now so far I've travelled to 3 different planets as well as the game's hub area, a kind of space station in which you turn in bounties and purchase new gear and upgrades. The cash for these can be earned in a number of different ways, from looting chests in levels to snagging wanted bandits out in the field, and on my first trip back I bought myself a sweet ass set of pistols with which to show off my gun skills, and you're able to take down multiple enemies at a distance with these, which I thought was a really awesome mechanic. I really liked how the bounty hunting system was implemented in the game though. In my first major boss fight I had the option of either killing the target or pacifying him, and I actually went for the latter, but this meant that I had to carry his unconscious body back to the ship, which really slows you down and requires you to fight your way through even more enemies. Now I've only had the option to fight 2 bosses so far, but as you'd expect, the combat with these is a lot more deliberate and slow, requiring you to dodge their attacks and then counter-attack with your own, and bosses appear to have their own unique movesets and mechanics for you to master. As with the rest of the game though, they really appear to know how to put up a fight, and I can imagine the later bosses being quite a challenge. Now the last thing that I want to praise are the game's visuals and sound design, and I absolutely love the art style with this one, which has a kind of watercolour aesthetic to it, and it sort of reminded me of the visual style of Disco Elysium. The environments and character models also look great, and although the animation does look a little jittery at times, the game holds up well on the Switch with very few performance issues. Now audio wise, combat sounds good and the punches sound like they have a good amount of weight to them, and the game's original soundtrack features some sweet electronica beats mixed with a bit of old western acoustics, which I felt really complemented the gameplay perfectly. All in all though, while I've only spent a limited amount of time with the game, my experience has been a positive one. I think it has some good ideas going on and the combat can be pretty fluid once you've got the hang of it. You've just got to keep an eye out for those counter attacks and utilise your third arm and pistols effectively. Oh, and I would advise taking out ranged enemies as soon as possible, as those guys can be right assholes. With the platforming, the chase sequences appear to be the strongest aspect here, and there are some really cool looking set pieces for you to run through, but be sure to time your jumps carefully as there are some pretty tricky ones to land. Now from what I hear, the game isn't the longest, clocking in at around 5 or 6 hours, so the $20 price tag may be a little steep for some people, but if you're looking for a fast-paced action platformer with some challenging combat and sweet platforming sequences, then They Always Run is definitely one to check out. And so that about does it for this first impressions video of They Always Run on the Nintendo Switch. I know it was a bit of a shorter one, but hopefully you now know what to expect from the game. And like I said, if the bug I mentioned gets fixed, I'll be sure to put it in a pinned comment below. For now though, hit that like button to show your appreciation, consider subscribing for future Switch reviews and content, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.